Hello everyone. So I wanted to go live today because Spirit has asked me to share with you some things that you can utilize to help you in your conjure work when you do conjure or manifestations of your own, okay? So I often get questions about how can I make my conjure better? How can I make my manifestations happen faster? How can I make my conjure or magic work faster? I constantly get that question from people who are starting to work their own magic, who are starting to do their own petitions from spirit, who are starting to work their own magic. Okay, so Spirit has asked me today to share with you some tips that you can do and that really are very, very highly suggested if you're going to start working your own magic, or even if you're going to start using like candle spells or spells from other people. Like if you're going to buy like candles at the store and work them yourself, these are really good things to utilize. Hello. To make sure that your manifestations are happening faster or that are approved faster by Spirit. Because here's how magic works. I'm going to explain to you guys how magic works. Magic with spirit, so spirit conjure, those of us who work with spirits to conjure things, we have to go through a certain process, and that process is we do the work, we submit the petition to the spirit, and then the spirit makes its final decision on whether it's approved or denied. And that approval or denial is based on a few things. First, it's based on how much faith you have in the work and how much faith you have in that spirit, because the more faith you have in that spirit, the more that spirit will want to work for you or work with you. A lot of the times people ask spirits things, but they don't have faith in that spirit, or they doubt that spirit. And that spirit is like, well, I don't really get anything from me doing this for you because you don't have faith in me. So what's the point of me helping you? So a lot of us may ask the spirit for something, but then we turn around and we doubt them. And then spirit is like, well, I get my power from those who give me their faith. So you have to remember that your spirits are powered by faith, and they're going to work more for someone much faster, and they're going to work much harder for someone who has faith in them versus someone who is just testing the waters and trying to figure it out. Because that's really, they're invested in your faith, okay? So they wanted me to share with you some of the tips that as healers we may know this, but as people who are just starting out, you may not know. Your faith is one of the main aspects of asking any spirit anything, because again, like I said, if you have faith and you have respect for them, they're more likely to look out for you. They're more likely to, especially a being such as like a Loa or an archangel. If you have faith in God or you have faith in them, they're more likely to help you out. They're more likely to push your case along faster and ahead of other people that may not have as much faith or may not have as much commitment to the situation. Also, you have to remember that there are other people's free wills, and because a lot of light beings will not violate another person's free will, what they have to do is that they have to negotiate with the spirit guides of the other person. So unless you're working with a demonic entity, the beings of light, beings like archangels or loas of light or spirit guides, they have to negotiate basically like a compromise between your spirit guides and the spirit guides of that person that is of the person you're trying to attract. Let's say you're doing a love work to attract a particular man or a particular woman. Maybe their spirits are so powerful that they can get in the way of the work. So let's say you're working with a healer. Usually my spirit guides will get in the way and kind of act as lawyers between them, kind of to get your spirit guides and their spirit guides on the same page. And that can take time. And you got to remember the spiritual realm is delayed. It's much further delayed than the physical realm is. So things move through the spiritual realm a little bit slower to make sure that is this really something that's going to benefit everybody involved, okay? Because we can't, as beings of light, they cannot violate free will. They can persuade the person, and they can come to an agreement with that person's spirit guides, and that takes time. Okay, so it's really important to understand. And then if you add in your doubt, or you want add in your questions, and you're constantly nagging, it's almost kind of like when you have a lawyer who is representing your case and you don't trust that lawyer is not going to want to do work for you. Even if you're paying them, they're not going to be emotionally invested in getting your results. Okay, so, or your manifestations. Okay, a few things that you need to really make sure of before you even start is it has to do with making sure you're cleansed, making sure you're purged, and making sure that you're offering the right offering or right sacrifice. So a few things. First, make sure that you do not have a hex or a curse on you before you start a working or a manifestation. Because if you start lighting candles, or you start doing root works, and you haven't taken the time to remove blockages from your path, maybe hexes that you've carried for generations, or curses that have been carried for generations, or hexes that maybe have been thrown at you, those are things that are blockages. They're road blockages. So they're going to get in the way of your manifestations and of your workings with spirit. And spirit will usually tell you this is not approved because you have a hex that's blocking your path. You have things that are blocking the path, and you have to do this, and this to move it out of your way. Another thing you need to make sure is that your mind is not crossed. A lot of people's manifestations are not happening because they're not clear on what they want. They may tell you that they want something, or you may think you want something, but you're not completely clear, okay, that you want something. And because you're not clear, spirit is like, well, we're not going to make the decision for you. You have to make a decision, because we cannot violate your free will. And I see this a lot where people will be doing like working, and they're not clear about what they want, and the decision is yours. You have free will. So if you don't know what you want, spirit isn't going to make a decision for you. They're going to let God make the decision, because they cannot violate your free will. Only God can make the final decision on that. So they're not going to intercede, because you're not giving them an exact thing that it is that you want and that you truly want. Okay, if you have an active curse or hex, it's really important for you to take care of it before you start doing workings or manifestations, because those things will keep showing up. If you have a mind crossing, your mind is crossed and you don't really know what you want, that's going to keep coming up. If you have unresolved emotions with a person, unresolved situations, that energy is in the spiritual realm, it's in the astral realm, and that is going to block you as well. Okay? If you don't have those things like a hex or a curse, then by all means, you don't necessarily have to get work done with a healer. You can do a general cleansing yourself if it's not something more serious like a hex or a curse, because hexes or curses usually do have to be removed by a spiritual healer, because hexes and curses are more on the level of surgery than just like over-the-counter medication. Okay, so you have to realize that there are different levels of cleansings and purges in the spiritual realm that require, some of them require just regular maintenance, some things require much deeper work and working with a spiritual healer who has a connection with spirit guides. Another thing that a lot of people fail to do, and this is the reason why I always have consultations before anyone can book a working with me, is that they fail to ask for permission of their spirits. I have to constantly ask permission from my spirits before I light any candle for myself or anyone else. I have to ask permission that my spirits are okay with doing this. You can't just, it's like telling someone, it's like signing up your friend to be part of a bake sale that they never agreed to. Okay, you don't want to do that. You need to make sure that your spirits are on board with helping with this process, and that they are in agreement that this will be the best thing for your life. Okay, if they're not in agreement of that, then you have no business doing working, and in reality you may just be wasting your money if you're paying someone else, or you may be wasting your money on the offerings and all those other things if your spirits don't agree to what you're doing. So because there are times when even your spirit guides will block your blessings because you're not listening and you're not paying attention. That is not your path. That is not the way you're supposed to be going. Okay. Another thing that I see that is a constant mistake is that people don't purge. You don't purge the negative emotions related to the situation. If you're gonna go do conjure and you don't purge the negative emotions related to that situation, before you start lighting that candle, if you pay someone who has a very dramatic life, to do work for you, and they're not taking that time to purge, like I have to purge all the time. Sometimes I have to sit here and purge the emotions from my clients that I absorb throughout the day, and I have to take cleanses every single day to maintain myself as a spiritual healer, because an accumulation of that emotion stops me from being able to do my work. So you have to make sure that you are doing work with someone who is taking care of making sure that they're purging themselves. That it's not yours. It's not. They don't have to tell you what they're doing, but you can kind of sense it, or ask your spirit guides if they're the right person to work with. If you are doing workings and you aren't taking the time to purge your emotions and to stop thinking and feeling about what the current emotion is, and not think for a moment to think about what you want and how you're gonna feel when you get what you want, rather than how you feel right now, you're gonna be still in the same energy. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna get more of the same energy. So let's say right now you're really sad because you broke up with someone, but you want to marry them, and you decide that you're going to do a love work to marry them. If you are doing the working with the sad energy, with the sad emotion, and I really want him back, like the desperate stagnant emotion, you're going to be telling the universe that that's how you want to feel when that work comes to be. So a lot of people may feel like, I did this work and it didn't work. Well, it's because you didn't purge your emotions. You put the current emotions into the work rather than the emotions that you want to feel in the future. Okay, so you need to be able to look forward, which is the reason why a lot of people just choose to do work with a worker, because as workers, we understand this and we make sure that we purge our emotions before we start working on someone's work. Okay, also, if you are paying someone else, realize that if you doubt the spirits of that person, like let's say that person has already proven to you that they did the work, and then you start doubting it and you start asking when all the time, you're gonna piss off the mediator. You're gonna piss off that spirit guide that is trying to work with both spirits on both sides and trying to be a fair judge of both and come to an agreement between these two spirits. You're gonna piss off that spirit, and that spirit may say, you know what, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to let it fall apart. And that's not the fault of the spiritual worker. The spirit can choose, and I'm always very clear whenever I do any work for anyone, if you start being negative and you start working against my spirit and you lack patience, they can choose to deny the work. Any spiritual worker, that goes for any spiritual worker, and any spiritual worker that tells you otherwise is not being fully transparent. If you start doubting, if you start nagging, and you don't understand that there is a time frame for things, then that spirit of the spiritual worker, they will make sure that the work doesn't get done. They will make sure, or they will delay it and delay it and delay it, and then give it to you at the very last minute, because it's not fair. Why should they work for you? A lot of people think that because you pay for a work, you own the worker and that spirit guides. And what you're actually doing is you're paying for this energetic sacrifice of the working that is being done. Okay? So you have to understand that at the end of the day, no matter who you pay, no matter what spell you do, the spirit realm can decide to deny your petition, whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're doing it with someone else. But very, very often, it's very unlikely that a spiritual worker's guides will deny, because they want to make sure that things get done, and you're usually sent to someone or guided to someone because they're the ones that can help you. So the spirit guides will make sure that you get what you want, but sometimes you need to just have patience. So yes, that is the most important thing that Spirit told me that I needed to mention, is that you need to purge the emotions. So for example, if you're constantly desperate, if you're constantly just focused on that rather than focused on what you can do in the physical realm to get things moving, then Spirit is just gonna delay it. You're gonna be put at the bottom of the pile, because they have a pile a million miles high of work that they have to get through. And if you feel like your work is more important than someone else, the Spirit is just gonna put it at the bottom of the pile and keep putting it at the bottom of the pile, and then you constantly are gonna feel like, oh, they're not listening to me, oh, Spirit is not listening to me, or Spirit is not helping me, or God is not helping me. And what really happens there is that you ended up actually destroying your own process by not taking the time to work on yourself, to aid that work in moving forward, to work on your patience, because they're going to teach you a lesson, whether you're doing it with someone else or whether you're doing it yourself. If you don't have patience, if you have doubt all the time, Spirit is going to teach you a lesson and be like, well, we're going to teach you how to be patient now. So we're going to make you wait for us all. And usually I see this has happened a few times where when the person finally gives up, that's when that man comes back, right then and there. Spirit is like, okay, she finally gave up. She finally stopped asking me so many effing times when this person was going to come back. And then the man comes back and wants to be in a relationship, and then the woman is like, I'm over you already. And then I have to break the work that was done, or they have to break the work. So if you have had work done and then you got over the person before you saw results because you were impatient, realize that you are still tied. If you did a love tie, you're still tied, and you need to go back to that healer and have that tie broken, or go to another healer and have that tie broken, because if you don't untie that, you will never find a new person. You will always feel like you're not able to move on in your love life because you're still tied in the spiritual realm, because you asked for it. So you asked for it, so Spirit tied you, and just because you got it later than you wanted it doesn't mean it's not there. Okay? And I see this very often where people will come to me after they've been to a million other workers because they're not patient, and they'll be like, well, I did a work with so and 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 so, and it never worked. And meanwhile, I look at their cards before and I see like 5 ties to like 5 different men. And then they're like, I don't understand why I have such bad luck in love. Because you're tied to like 5 different people in the spiritual realm. So, or you're tied, or you have like 4 ties with the same guy because you just weren't patient to what Spirit was telling you. Or you want to take like 5 years to destroy a relationship and then have it fixed in one day, and that's not gonna how it works. You can't take 5 years to destroy a relationship, or 10 years to destroy a relationship, and then expect the relationship to be magically fixed within a month. That takes time. It's like stitching it and letting the stitches heal, and like letting the stitches heal and making sure it's not getting infected and all those things. You have to make sure that you give your magical workings time, your magical manifestation, a realistic amount of time. If you think that, okay, I'm going to give it 2 months, and if it doesn't work in 2 months, then I'm going to quit, then you shouldn't do love work, because love work can take anywhere between 6 months to a year. And I'm very honest about this, because it can start having effects like the same day that I do it, or that you do it, but the full effects, the full results of what you're asking for can take between 6 months and a year. Why? Because your spirits have to take the time to actually negotiate that love and that bond with that other person's spirit guides. Okay? There's so many things that you don't understand. And you think that you can just light a candle and then get results tomorrow. You may start seeing some results right away, but sometimes it can take anywhere between 6 months to a year to see full results of a love work. Candle working, usually you get results faster, but usually candle working results last less time because it burns out. Fire magic can give you results quickly, but will burn out quickly, because as soon as the candle burns out, you're running out of time on that work. versus a root work, which takes longer to activate because it has to be buried, but has longer lasting effects. So you have to know when you're doing magic, what is the magic that you're doing? What is the magic that you're performing? And what is the magic that that person is doing for you? Okay? This is not something where like you can go on Amazon and order it. And this is not Amazon Prime magic. No magic is Amazon Prime magic. Okay? You're not gonna get it in 2 days. You have to understand that different elements work differently. If you do something in water, it can either be very slow or very fast, depending on the type of water that you use. If you do something in earth-based, it can take longer because earth is slow, but it builds longer results. Okay, it takes a tree a long time to grow. If you do things with fire, with candles, you'll see fast results, but then you'll constantly have to keep doing candles because the candle's results burn out within 3 to 6 months. So you have to do another candle to continue the process. Okay. Yes, please remember where you bury things when you bury things. But you have to remember that. You have to remember how you're doing. If you do magic and it involves the air element, like incense and things like that, it can last, usually the results of it can usually last between 6 to 9 months before you have to continue doing things. So that's the reason why usually a lot of people who practice high magic will use all 4 elements. But it's really important to know what type of work, and that can only be known if you consult your spirit guides or if you consult a professional who knows and who has specialized in doing magic, and consult their spirit guides as well, so that they can see how they can get the best results for what you're asking for. Yeah, that's it. Just remember, the most important thing is that your negative emotions, your doubt, they kill the magic before it even has a chance to be born. Your faith in the beginning is the spark that starts the fire, but then if you start to add doubt to it, that's the water that puts it out. You got to remember, with everything, there's an action and then there's a reaction. If you act with doubt, there will be the reaction of a delay. If you act with faith, then things will move a little bit faster for you. Understand that many times when you do pay for work, you are paying the energetic sacrifice for the time and for the offerings that person has to put in to ask the spirits for your results. Okay? So that's something that you have to realize. It depends on the Emmanuel, the folk magic versus high magic. High magic requires a lot more energy and requires a lot more procedure. But folk magic is a little bit more loose, but folk magic does tend to have a little bit longer time frames. But they're both powerful in different ways. So that depends on what your spirit guides lead you to do, because folk magic versus high magic, it really is up to the spirit. If you're doing spirit conjure, you don't really need to choose one type of magic over the other. You just need to really do things with faith and with the intuition that spirit gives you. So that is all I have for you today. Just remember 3 things. Make sure you cleanse, make sure you purge, and make sure you have faith when you ask for something of spirit in any form of conjure or magic that you do. Okay? And that is all. Usually if there's something that you need to do, you can find out during a reading or a consultation. I would suggest at least getting a reading from someone. Doesn't have to be from me, from anyone, so that you feel is a good reader, so that reader can give you a explanation as to what might need to be done. Someone who is a healer, any authentic healer or reader can usually tell you what is blocking you so that you are able to take care of that. And that's all that I have for you today. I hope you have a beautiful day. Many blessings.